Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut. I am a president of Lending for Living. I am a podcast host. I am a radio show host. And catch me this week on Jesse T Show.
Ed Parcaut, what is up, my brother?
Oh, just another great day in California.
California, where it's basically fallen off the map.
No, basically where they worry about shit that doesn't matter. Right. They don't worry about COVID and the businesses failing. They worry about the fact that you got to separate kids' toys on shelves no longer. Everything has to be put together so that you can't find anything anymore.
I've heard horror stories, brother, especially from Rogan. I listen to a lot of Rogan, and he fled California a lot. He's brought the whole Comedy Store with him pretty much. But talking about some of the things that are going on out there, man, is it that like dystopian out there right now? Is it pretty bad?
It's in certain areas. It is like if you're in with the coastal, and I don't want to come off wrong here, but what they call the coastal elites in the Bay Area and Southern California in certain places, people are just weird. I mean, but if you're in the Central Valley, like I am, and where Modesto is, which is around Stockton and Tracy and those kind of things, we just can't believe those people, right? We're like, what the heck is wrong with them? Here's one of the things that happened a few years ago, which I didn't know. Basically, they passed a law that said the top two people to vote for on a ballot can be like two Democrats. It doesn't have to be party system. It's just the top two people. So how do you keep people and parties from being part of a thing is be controlling like that, right? And I don't want to get into the whole new bill that's passing. They're trying to federalize the voting system that's going to, really mess it up, not just in California, but everywhere else. So that's my last little political bullshit that I want to talk about.
Have you heard of the Stockton slap?
No, what's that?
No. So Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz, two huge MMA fighters that have come from Stockton, California. Okay. They do the Stockton slap in the octagon. So like when they're fighting with people, they basically give them a little bitch slap to mess with them. So they open. It's called the Stockton slap, which is really funny. And they're out of control. They're in there mouthing off, throwing fingers at people. They're Stockton to the core, I guess. So that's what I know about Stockton. But yeah, man, I've heard about how Garcetti and Newsom are like running that state into the ground right now, and people are having to deal with like tent cities, and there's feces all over the ground. Someone was telling me at the event where we met in Scottsdale a couple of weeks ago, there's jobs for people and ridiculous amounts of money, like over six figures, to go around and pick up poop off the ground.
Yeah, it's San Francisco cleaning up the streets, but they don't. I mean, the homeless have learned to park it on federal land, right? Over underpasses over, because the local police can't do anything about it. Only the federal, Caltrans, those people, and they'll never come in and move them. Right. That's just what they won't do. It is pretty bad in some areas in California because of that. I mean, LA is, really bad. We won't get into that, but it's bad, but it's going to go everywhere. I mean, it's just, I mean, for me, I say, if you move out of California, which I'm hoping a lot more people do, and it can be the other side, not my side, but that way I can get people into homes. One of our biggest problems in California, and like everywhere else, we have not built enough homes, and we're so far behind. We went up 14% this year in our city. That's huge.
Giant.
$500,000 home now is more than 150 grand more, right?
So I've seen, you're in that space of real estate, and I'm in financial planning, and one of the economic indicators of a good economy is our homes being built, and our supplies being sold, and our contracts being made, and just I've seen it in Georgia. I don't know about California, but Georgia's pretty good in terms of they're still building residences, they're still building like little communities, they're building businesses and things like this. Is it similar in California, or is it kind of slowed down?
No, they're trying to build. The problem is in California, it takes generations to put land together ready to build houses on. Wow. We're like in Las Vegas, Courtney from our group is in Las Vegas. I mean, 6 months a year, they're planning housing. Here in California, the cost, the bullshit, the fees, the stupid things they make us go through. We're going to be building a house so my wife told me 2 years ago, I don't want to be around people when I retire. And so we found 32 acres up in Twain Harte, which is a little somewhat to the mountains, but not fully. It's only 3,000 altitude, so you don't get that much snow. I mean, we had to pay $16,000 to the school for school fees. My kids will never go to those schools, but that's not what it's about. They want to fund that. Now we have to get power to our land is going to cost $20,000 a pole, and we need 3 of them. Right. And that's just little things. That's not even the permits and the other stuff that we have to pay for that is just so ridiculous. In California, we had to go put sprinkler systems in our house, right? Because that's a law. This year, you have to put solar on your house. There's another 30 grand that is going to cost a home just to put solar, and the sprinkler systems another 15,000. They just California thinks they're so amazing with what they come up with. And the problem is they're making it harder and harder for people to build homes, to live here. So the cost of homes are skyrocketing. I mean, people leave the Bay Area and they're coming up in the mountains to get away from people after this COVID, and they're selling their houses for 1.5 million, which is just a regular single family home. Yeah. No amazing thing, right? 100, 200,000 over asking. Bidding up. So there's so many people still want to live over there, and there's so many people want to live here, and there's people leaving California. It's a normal thing that happens. We have a next exodus of 100,000 people. When you have 34 million people in California, that's nothing, right? We need more. 500,000 leave. That would be happy. But back to the whole thing about how Georgia and the homes are. No, I watched a builder thing last week, and they're talking about the demand for homes. They're raising it $10,000 for every new release. Yep. It's everywhere, all over the country, definitely in where you're at. It's same here. As soon as they have them sold before they even build them or even put them out, because there's just not enough homes being built. The 2006 downturn, we had like twice as many homes as we needed, right? And then so that's why when it went down and prices went so low, because of that fact. Well, we're not there right now. We're complete opposite. So economy is going to continue to go. I see that for me, I see a recession in 2022, possibly because of the stimulus that we're going to have coming, right? It's going to spur everybody. Oh, wow. And then it's going to go, right. And then you have the government who's going to stop the bond market and all that from going too high rates wise. They're going to put in like they did in the 1940s to keep rates where they're at, because I think 1% is $1 trillion in interest for them.
Insane. And at this point, they're just printing money, so it doesn't even matter anymore.
Right. I mean, they haven't even spent $1 trillion of the last stimulus program.
I know, it's incredible. It's interesting from an economic standpoint, how the Fed will cool off the market, with different things like interest rate change or increase or decrease the money supply. And right now we're starting to see, and this is something you could speak to as the expert, but I know it a little bit, is just the rates are starting to climb a little bit, and for the housing market.
Right. But a lot of this is inflation, right? Yeah. Inflation is what drives interest rates. You have the bond market and mortgage-backed securities. That's how you get so the bond market has nothing to do with rates, but people tie them together. And sometimes the mortgage-backed securities and the long bond go in the same way. And sometimes they go completely opposite, right? Yep. So you can add in all the real words. I'll just add in the normal lingo I talk to my clients about. All right. So I talk to my clients. I've done that for years. When I sold computers, I didn't get into all this stuff when I was younger. I talked about how they wanted to hear, and I still do that today. Well, regular sense. Words, right? So I don't get into the big words, that's for you to do. All right. So basically what I find right now is we have inflation, right? How much would you have paid for a roll of toilet paper back when we couldn't find any toilet paper, right? Yep. That's inflation, right?
People were fighting each other for toilet paper.
Right. That's inflation, and people don't realize that. So we're paying. So right now for a builder, a 2x4 that used to cost $1.79, say, is now costing $12.
Yep.
Right. Because the fires have burnt a lot of trees. There was COVID that stopped people from producing wood. Chain. Right. All that stuff happened. Builders not building during that period of time. So there's such a pent up demand still that we're going to see everything continue. Now go back to rates. Why are they going up? Because we see inflation right now. They're worried, right? But it's good inflation. However, I see that they're going to continue to rise a little bit, and then eventually they're going to go back the opposite way and go back down. So
market's cyclical. I talk about this all the time with, from financial planning to real estate, everything it goes up and goes down. And it's usually, at least for financial planning, it's about an average of 10 years, which is somewhat similar to real estate. I know that might be different here and there, but usually what you see is every 10 years, the market goes on a bull run, starts to climb, stocks are going up for the most part. And then usually after about 10 years on average, since the stock market was created in the 1930s, you'll see a correction, you'll see a recession, you'll see 18 months to 24 months of just like we need to change what's going on, because, even though we're a capitalistic society, if we were just always going up, eventually there would be, it would be hollow, like you said, inflation. And so also on top of the inflation, you get scarcity problems right now. You got less lumber, especially where you are over in California, where it's been on fire for are there still fires right now?
No, we've been pretty good this year because nobody's been out to set them, and there hasn't been any lightning strikes, so there's that, right? But it's not really the lumber here, because most of the lumber that, burn in some of these areas are pine. Nobody wants pine. You know what I mean? You build, that's not what it is. But, the cost of lumber, I don't know if I told you, but it's up 130%. It's insane. Not 30%, 130%. So we were going to build a house this year, right? And we got stopped because of COVID. We were looking at starting up again. Well, we decided to split the land, but if we would have continued on with building that house this year, it would have cost us $150,000 more just for the lumber.
I believe it.
That's where the issue is, right? And that's how builders are running. So inflation is bad. We see that it's going to go up, but still, I mean, we're talking about rates still in the 3.5, right? We're right before the pandemic. That's where we are right now. Rates, yes, we went down in the 2s, but historically, that is the lowest rates we've ever seen.
So low.
During the pandemic, in the beginning, it was so hard to get the loans processed and through the pipeline because everything was shut down. People, there was so much margin calls, and that's why you saw mortgage-backed securities in 1 week. I saw it go from 3% to 4.5% because of margin calls. Yep. So long term, what you're talking about, where's the market going? You're going to still see house prices, even in this recession, go up. You're still going to see people buying. It's going to be the other, everything else that's going on in the industry is going to go through a recession. I think the stock market might take a hit. I don't know.
For sure.
But it does. You're right. But a stock goes up so much, hits a ceiling, bounces off. I didn't understand the 25-day moving average is the 50-day, all those things until I started looking at where the mortgage-backed securities are and watch those things daily to see where rates are going and when to lock. But, a 3.5, give me a break. When I got into this business, I was taking people from 13 to 9 and they love me. Yeah. And now somebody goes, is 2.99 a good rate? Right? It's like, are you serious?
It's insane to where it is now. I mean, it's basically nothing. And you're going to find a lot of people, this is really interesting, where if the rates did climb into the 4s or higher 4s, you'll see who's made of what. And it's like being an entrepreneur up until COVID. Like, we have a lot of fake entrepreneurs right now that it's been so good for so long, they haven't been hit with any adversity yet. They don't know what it's like to go out and like cold call or go make something happen out of nothing. It's been living off the fat of the land. So this is actually really good because we get to see who the real players are.
Well, also all these big giants that are the worst people to go through, we'll just leave it at that you can go online and find, and they're on TV and make these commercials. They're going to lose people because they can't feed that giant thing anymore with these ridiculous rates. See, when I started in this business, I was one of them. We built a company like that, and we would sell by the phone. It would, we'd send out the mailers. We'd do all the advertising, throw a rate out there that was ridiculously low, that costs 2 to 3 points, which you don't want to pay, and have people call in and ask for about that. And then you go through the process and explain to them, and then you'd get them in. And some people, there's a lot of companies out there, and I'm a vet. And so it's really important for me that veterans get taken care of. I mean, everybody, but really vets, because a lot of us are very trusting. We both have that background. You're Navy, I'm Navy. We trust, right? We learn to trust by being in there. So when you see an ad on TV that says, we're here to help you, call us, you got to be really careful.
Yep.
And because I always tell people, go local, right? We all get our rates from the same place. You want to be able to walk into an office, yell at that person if they messed up, not pick up a phone that they never asked, try to go online and try to get a hold of them. You can't get a hold of them. It's just, you're better off to go local. Just the same thing with a financial advisor. You're much better to go local.
People that you that you like, that you trust, that are competent. You can give them a high five for a job well done, or you can grab by the neck and shake them if you need to.
Exactly. Right.
So you talked about it a little bit, and let's dive into it. Give us a little context on your background. You mentioned the military and some sales that you used to do. Talk a little bit about your journey.
All right. So I was Born in Burlingame, California. My dad worked for Ma Bell at the time, so we moved to where his next advancement was. And you can find this on my website, edparcaut.com. I'll throw a little thing out there.
Nice plug.
Because you can find everything about me. That's why I finally made a website about me, not just everything, so you can find out my background. And it also has my other one podcast on there in the radio show. We just recently, I'll get into more of my background, started Helping the Brave, which is a podcast for vets transitioning out of the military and through on. And that's been going really well. But my story was, so my dad, we went from California to Colorado my whole life. My dad passed away when I was 12 of hairy cell leukemia, which was from Agent Orange. And at that time, the government said that wasn't Agent Orange, yada, yada, yada. And then we ended up in Turlock, California, which is only right down the road from where I am now. When I went to high school, I was told I was going to be a blue collar worker because I took auto body, auto mechanics, all those mechanical things because I wanted to learn all that. Well, I used to work on my grandfather's dairy during the summer and on weekends, hauling hay and all that stuff. And that's how I earned in the beginning. And it grew my shoulders throwing that hay around. So after that, I realized I did not want to work on a dairy. I did not want to milk cows for the rest of my life. I knew I had to get out of this area if I wanted to do anything. So I was like, I don't know if I want to be a doctor, chiropractor, whatever, something, nurse, whatever in the medical field. So I joined the Navy as a corpsman, right? See the world, right? They told me. So I got stationed in San Diego at the time when they had RTC, NTC, which has been gone for years. That was my boot camp. Went to Corps School at Balboa, which was great. And then after our class, everybody in our class, we got billets for North Carolina on the East Coast, like North Carolina, all that stuff. And we're all West Coast people going, this is unusual. They normally don't do that, right? They keep you on the coast that you're on.
Yep.
Well, luckily, our chief at the time got us the top three people in the class got the billets for California. I was one of them. I got stationed at Camp Pendleton at the hospital at Camp Pendleton, which was the best out of all that.
Wow.
I didn't realize at the time it was the best. That meant I wasn't dealing with Navy people at 32nd Street or someplace else on a ship or whatever. That's time. I was dealing with Marine Corps, which we are the docs for the Marine Corps. So I got stationed at the hospital there for 18 months. First thing they ask you is when you show up there, they go, you go to 4 South, they would tell you to go to the wards, right? And they go, anybody know computers? I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, go down to medical mobilization and planning. So my first 18 months, instead of being a corpsman, I dealt with readiness teams and got people, all that kind of stuff, and dealing with reservists, which was really great. I enjoyed it. Went out on helicopters. I was a photographer. You go to Corps School, this is what you do, right? Yeah. But I enjoyed that part of it, showing that that's what I like to do. Well, 18 months is up and they said, okay, you either going to a ship or a specialty school. I'm like, okay, what specialty school is not on a ship? And they said physical therapy. I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I went to physical therapy school, got stationed at, that was in San Antonio, Texas. And it's funny because that's the all military school, but that's also where my son went for his AIT when he was in the Army for his, being a medic. So went there, got stationed back at Camp Pendleton for my last part of my training, and ended up stationed at Camp Pendleton the rest of my time. So I was at Camp Pendleton pretty much my whole time in the military, 5 years, 5 months, and 14 days, which allowed me to do my next thing, which is very important. When I was in the educational thing for vets was horrible. I mean, you got $2,500 a year. It was nothing, right? Yeah. So but they would pay, up to $3,000 per quarter, whatever it was, if you're in, to reimburse you for school. So I went to school, I got my bachelor's in marketing, and then I got my master's in international business and marketing. So, that's all about when you're in, you need to plan for your future. A lot of people don't. They go in. I don't care if you go in as infantry, if you go in boatsman, whatever it is, where you're at on that, you need to plan for your future while you're in, because nobody else will for you. And that's one reasons why we started that Helping the Brave.
I got a lot of people I'm going to connect you with once we jump off, but that whole mentality of what do you do when you take off the uniform? And it parallels a lot with athletes. What do they do when they take off their jersey? Right. A lot of athletes in military face similar things. I mean, you're a part of a team. You're a part of a group of like-minded individuals that were striving towards something together. And you had this jersey or uniform, depending on what side you were on, that was really a big part of your identity. And what did you do when you took that jersey or uniform off? And a lot of military and ex-professional or college athletes, they kind of go through an existential crisis. They're like, well, what the hell do I do now? And to your point, you have to plan ahead. You have to think about the next step. What are you going to do when you get out? So whether you're a professional athlete and you're thinking about business opportunities or whatever it is, or if you're military, you're thinking about, my next career, it's very important on either side of that spectrum to plan ahead.
And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed being in physical therapy because I ended up being an EMT, taught at the EMT school afterwards. I did a lot of that while I was in, and I treated burn patients in, where I was at, which that and, wound care, I enjoyed that part of stuff, seeing that healing, right? A lot of times with physical therapy, you don't see that healing because it's inside, but with that, you could see that. So I really enjoyed that. But I just this is not where I want to be, right? I definitely knew I didn't want to be in the military because I did not like just from being time and rank and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how it was for you, but it's not like my son's in the Army, big group of people. I mean, they're so connected, they're brothers, whatever. I didn't really have that in the Navy, and that's could be just me because, I'm different. So, when I did plan to get out, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I liked real estate, right? So my first gig was I was going to be an agent with this other captain and so I went out. Well, this was right as another recession hit, right? So I went to my background, so when I was in high school, you have to take a language, right? But I took a computer science language, right? Because I could get around it that way, right? So
Smart.
Huh?
That's smart.
Yeah. So I learned computers, and that was great. So I got out, I sold computers, built them. We did some custom. I sold, so it's a whole different career, but I learned during that first couple of years of being out, taking the wrong thing to the wrong company, learning a lot in business. And then I fell into the mortgage industry. By my neighbor owned a mortgage company, and I knew that my contract that I'd set up to sell all these computers to the Navy exchanges. So that was my thing is I branched back into the military and sold where you can customize computers before it was a deal back, we're talking a long time ago. All right. This is 90s. Most of you people listening probably weren't alive
before iPhone.
Yeah. This is when 286, 386, 486. Do you know what that is? No. Anyway, those are the dinosaurs. I remember when I got in the Navy and I was at the Camp Pendleton in physical therapy, and we'd have to do the CyberX machine, and you'd have to stick in this 5 1/4 floppy drives in there to record stuff and have it run. It's like, those were the days.
One of my first memories of a computer was I was in a Catholic school called St. Mary's Star of the Sea in East Boston, Massachusetts. And they had these desktops that operated on DOS. And the best part about it was we got to play Oregon Trail.
Well, those are the days where you had Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was just what phrases would come up. That was how you played things.
Yep.
Good thing it's so much different these days.
I mean, you have NASA in your pocket. They say right. That with an iPhone, you have better technology in your hand than NASA had through the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, they had rooms of computers that were servers that are now in your phone. That's basically the same technology. It's amazing how things change.
So getting faster. Yeah.
Yeah. So after doing that, I fell in the mortgage industry. I really love numbers. Then another recession hit, right? I was in it for about a year and a half, taking people from 13 to 9, doing refinances. And then we hit a recession, and basically the whole industry went away, right, for a short period of time. So I ended up working for it's in Thousand Oaks. I don't remember if it's Blue Cross or Blue Shield. Inside sales, selling insurance to small businesses. Well, during that time, I was sold by the phone. I started listening to what people were saying on the phone, and not just the words, but the tones, inflections in their voices. So, and I guess I have a decent voice for radio and telephone that people listen to me. So that's what I'm told. I don't know. I think it's horrible, but I have the face for it. I know that.
Face for radio.
Yeah. Anyway, so I started listening, and then I ended up coming back in the mortgage industry and working for a small broker, the same guy I worked for before. I did direct mail for him. I created postcards, and we grew that company huge back in the 80s. I mean, huge. This guy made in 18 months period, after he wrote everything else he could write off, $10 million in 18 months, right? The guy went bankrupt and all that right after that because he had an issue. It taught me so much working there that I went out and started my own mortgage company with a partner that was there. And out of that company, there was 26 sales guys, and I think 9 companies were created out of there. My partner and I were the last one together. I mean, business partner. Yep. We're the last ones together. And then that was 2002. And then I split off and started my own up here in Northern California. And so I've been doing my own ever since.
About 20 years, give or take.
It's been a while. Yeah. almost. Yeah.
Half your
So
life,
I mean,
probably.
yeah, well, something like that. More than
So,
that, but
so,
you know,
so
we won't go with the age. We'll just go by the way you look.
and the way you feel, right? So you talk about your career in the last 20 years. How did you start? Like the difference between did you go independent completely in 2002 by yourself?
Yeah.
And then what does that business look like? How did it evolve till now? What does the business look like today?
All right. So I started a company called Source One Financial back then. And basically, we only did purchase money, right? We occasionally do a refinance. Because my big thing after being in the refinance boom for so long and everything, I'm just tired of growing a company and tearing it down,
Yep.
growing a company and tearing it down, right? To a certain point. So I don't want to do that anymore. So I grew. So that was the company. And then I was approached in 2006 by that same guy that was my business partner going, hey, we need to get big. And so we built another company called Lighthouse Residential Mortgage, which we had net branches everywhere. Then the industry changed. You had to change with it. So we no longer had those net branches. And I went back to my old company, which was Source One Financial. And people go, how'd you do that? And you just like, I just put it there. I didn't like cancel it. I didn't, it just sat there. And then recently changed to, Source One Financial. I couldn't trademark it. I'm like, because there was so many other Source One Financials or Source One Mortgage. So there was not a lending for living. So I created lending for living and trademarked it. And basically it's the same thing I believe in, which is I help people build personal wealth through home ownership.
I love that. We talked about this when we met in Scottsdale a couple of weeks back, that most wealth is transferred through real estate. That's how a lot of people become wealthy, whether it's inheritance, whether it's you're fixing and flipping, or you're into syndication, which I've been learning about the last few months. There's a lot of ways to transfer wealth, and you want to own an asset, whether it's a dividend or income producing stock, whether it's real estate that provides some sort of rents or appreciation or some sort of cash flow. And there's a lot of tax benefits too that you can utilize within real estate too. So I think that as a financial planner that recommends real estate highly, I can't talk enough about it.
Yeah, it's most people don't, and especially buying single 1 to 4 units, triplexes, all those little things. Because when you get into 5 units on, now you're in commercial world, it's a totally different type of money down, that kind of stuff. But you could, and I tell everybody, get your kid their first home when they're single, get them a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex. They can live in one of them. The other 3 units could pay their mortgage, right? So they have to worry about $500.
They're doing this a lot, especially in Boston. A lot of people are buying these houses that are multi-units and putting their kid in one unit and then renting out the others, and it's paying for their education and then some.
Right, because you can do that FHA with 3.5% down. Right, it's like, where else? We're the only country that subsidizes so you can buy houses, right? That's basically what it is. And if you, for some reason, if the numbers don't work off of FHA because of the rents, whatever, then you have to go conventional. And I think it's depends on how many units, whether it's 10% down or whatever, but it's still cheap. Because if you actually buy it as an investment, you're talking 20 to 25% down.
Yep.
Minimum.
Yep.
So
yeah, there's ways to navigate the system, we'll say.
Right. And I helped a lady who, she was young. Her mom was an agent, so she's had that in her background. But I talked them into getting a triplex, right? They never thought of it. We helped her. She lived in 1 unit. Then she had to leave for schooling or go down to LA for one of these jobs. And so she ended up renting the whole place. She's got $1,000 positive cash flow right now.
That's beautiful.
After everything's paid. So we just took that same thing, took it from a 30-year loan to a 20-year loan, and they're still cash positive by doing that. And it would be paid off in 20 years. So now she's like, and then she just came back from all that and she just bought a single family home. And I talked to her, she's like, I want to put 20% down. I'm like, no, you're not putting 20% down. You're going to keep 10% of it because in case you need it, because mortgage insurance is so cheap. I think the mortgage insurance was $33 a month.
Super expensive.
So $30,000 divided by $33 a month, you figure that out. That's longer than you're going to pay off that loan.
So in terms of size and scope and coming to market with your business now, are you located just in California? Do you operate in other states? Do you have a team? What does it look like now?
So I only operate in California now. I used to be in 47 different states, but I didn't have a lot of volume for that. So I just, when I recreated Lending for Living, I only licensed in California. A third of all mortgages in the United States are done in California.
I believe it.
Right. So I'm like, that's good enough for me. But we are now looking at, because I'm meeting so many people nationwide through Steve Sims and all the other stuff I'm doing, especially, and I'm going to plug it one more time, Helping the Brave. I want to be able to help them. So so we're looking at, do we license in all the other states? Do I become something else? And then I don't have to worry about things. That's all on the plate right now. I'm unique. I can't work for somebody else. That's why I have my own business, right? Because I'm very opinionated. I'm direct. On our radio
people
show,
telling you what to do unless you ask them.
right. I mean, my clients try to tell me what to do. That's different. You have clients. There's,
fire your clients.
You can do that, but you got to remember the clients aren't always right. They're just what we have, or what we got.
True. So when you're talking about the business and where it might go, what's the grand scheme? Like looking, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, what do you want to see happen within your businesses?
So you asked me if I have a team. Well, I do have a team that just supports me. I have 4 people that supports my volume. 2 assistants that just handle up front if they take, so what I do best, I talk to people, right? I talk on air. I talk on different things. That's what I do best. Taking an application, typing it in is not what I do best. Figuring out the best program for somebody and where they need to go, that's what I do very well also. So that's all I do. So my team's going to continue to grow. And my plan is in 15 years from now, I'm not possibly in my company anymore. And if I am, my employees own all of it. You follow me? Sell it to my employees as I build it, because
push yourself out of the business and basically, make it a sales play or a revenue generation play if you choose to.
Right. And be honest with you, I really have found, since I started the radio show, and if you want to find me on that, if it's okay if I plug it, it's called Real Estate Jerky. So you just Google Real Estate Jerky, you'll find us. We turn it into a podcast, but basically we do a local radio show that helps people understand why they should buy homes. Started it 3 years ago. I don't know how much I told you, but started 3 years ago to help all the people who saw their parents lose their house get back in the industry so that they could buy homes. Because a lot of them are like, I don't want to buy a home because I saw what it did to my parents. No, that was a unique situation caused by things that we don't do anymore. We had a lot of regulation that came in that was not needed, that has not helped. Some actor said, when the government comes and says, we're here to help with their hand out, run. And that's basically what happened in our industry. Basically, people thought they knew what they should do, and they told everybody and they changed it. So there's a lot of regulation we didn't need, but we're all working through it. So
talk about the other podcast. Is it Helping the Brave?
Yeah. So I get 2 podcasts. One's Inner Edison, which I do kind of what you're doing, where I talk to business owners and other people about how their journey along the way, or any individual about their journey. And, some of the greatest accomplishments comes from some of our biggest mistakes. I can look back at my career and I can say that totally that's the case, right? Yeah. You got to make mistakes and learn from them. The reason I started that is one of our people that we know together, Steve Sims, told me, you don't like making mistakes, Ed. I'm like, well, shit. I have no problem with it, right? Well, I have no problem for my staff making it as long as they learn from it. For me, being prior military, medical military, right, as a corpsman, so if you make a mistake, someone might die, right? So I started thinking about it. I'm like, he's totally right. So he pushed me to start the Inner Edison to get that out there, kind of a cathartic thing, I guess. And then from that, and doing a lot of stuff, I met a lot of people through everything. I'm part of all the different speakeasies and everything else. And I've always wanted to give back. When I got out of the military, it was totally different than today, right? After 9/11, people really care now about our military. They care about, well, I can't say police anymore, but firefighters, right? But I care a lot for our police. I care about everybody. I think it's, there are always some bad apples, whether it's doctors, attorneys, everywhere. You name it, everywhere and everything. Does not mean everybody's bad.
Right.
But for the military, when I got out, they weren't rude, but nobody said, thank you for your service. I go out of my way to thank every veteran I know. I'll walk across an airport if I see a Vietnam vet guy with a hat on, or anybody with that, to say thank you for your service. Yep. Anybody in uniform, definitely. But I think everybody needs to go up to any veteran and to thank them for the service, not on Veterans Day only, every day, because we signed on the line to give our life away.
Yeah, I mean we are GI Joes at that point. Government issued. They have our balls in a vice, so to speak.
I remember getting a sunburn, and they're like, we could write you up for damaging government property.
Isn't that hilarious? And then some jackass that was probably serious about that too. It's like, come on, bro. Really?
No, well, I tell people, if you ever watched MASH, that's kind of how it was when I was working at Camp Pendleton. It was in physical therapy. My department heads didn't care how long my hair was. And that was when I had hair. I don't anymore. It's been falling out for years. But it was a totally different world, different time. I worked in scrubs. I didn't work in a uniform.
Yep. Much different time. So talk a little bit about some of your personal endeavors and pursuits. I know when we were talking in Scottsdale at the Speakeasy, Steve Sims event, dropping that. Are you going to the one in San Diego?
I will go to every single one of them. The only ones I missed was because of my son's graduation, whether it was from his boot camp and when he graduated airborne. One thing I said I would do that wasn't done for me is when I graduated from boot camp or core school, any of that, my mom wasn't there, right? My dad had already passed. They weren't there. It was not important to them. For me, it's very important to be there to show my son I respect him in that military. And since we're talking about military, I want to go back to my other podcast that we just started, which is called Helping the Brave. And basically, we started as a podcast, and now we actually went live. We're doing live now on Facebook and LinkedIn. So we're Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:30 Pacific time. Everybody else can add on because I know it's real hard. That's 5:30 Eastern.
Podcast, all the business information in the show notes, the links, everything for people to connect with you. But as far as those, where I was going with the physical endeavors and pursuits, you've done triathlons before.
Yeah, when I was in San Diego and in the service, I got a bike to do triathlons. And I would ride into work. This is when the hospital was in the middle of Camp Pendleton. I'd ride into work in the morning, which was only 13 miles, and I'd ride home, which was 10 miles. And then when I go to school, I'd ride to school and then ride back home. So I did a lot of riding when I was younger and 18. So I love cycling. I'm a big guy though, compared to where I was back then. I was only 155 pounds when I joined the service. And now I'm like a lot more than that.
What's funny is we're about the same height. You might have me by like an inch or two. But when I got into the military, I was definitely leaner than I am now. I'm walking around about 215. I was about 180 and not really a lot of fat to speak of, but I was still obese on their charts because I was supposed to be like 155, 160, but I was really big into like weights and lifting and all this stuff. And it was funny because they said that like, I think I actually had to get a special chit because I was like 20 pounds overweight. I don't remember. I remember there was like an issue with it. But anyway, talking about that physical pursuit, did you ever complete a full marathon or a full triathlon and all these different things?
So what happened was, fast forward many years, 2006 happened. We slowed down a little bit, had a lot of time. My wife, I got remarried. I've been married twice. My third time has been the right one. And I'm going to say this little thing for everybody. Yeah. Well, you need to make a list of what you want. Don't focus on what you don't want. You got to make a list of what you want. If you don't, you're going to make the same mistakes over and over again. This time I made a list all the way down from professional I wanted her 5'9", all this other stuff. I mean, it was ridiculous. Everybody said, you'll never find that. Well, I didn't know at the time she had a list. Same thing. Ridiculous, right? The only thing I wasn't on her list was a fireman because she thought she wanted me gone every other night. And the only thing she wasn't on my list was 5'9". She's 5'4.5". I can deal with that, right? Yeah. Everything else is there. And that's the same thing. When you finally find that soulmate and that person, you want to spend all your time with them. And you don't realize that. And that's the thing with my wife. So what would happen was she'd be sitting on the couch on her laptop looking up at me. And I'm like, what now? She's like, hey, will you do a 5K with me? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Hey, will you do a 10K with me? Hey, will you do this? And then she's from Hawaii. She moved there when she was 1. She was there her whole time until she came here in 2002 to be a nurse at one of the hospitals. So she only knew about the huge Ironman, right?
Yes.
That's the only triathlon she knew about. She didn't realize there were sprints, Olympic distance, half, and full. So she's like, hey, will you do triathlon with me? I'm like, sure. Our first one was in Santa Cruz. It was a sprint. I don't like sprint. I really like the next one up. So I'll explain that.
Olympic?
Yeah, I like Olympic. All right. So the sprint, I mean, it's a sprint. I'm swimming in Santa Cruz. I don't know if you've ever been to Santa Cruz and their ocean. It's like San Diego. It's ice cold, kelp, salty, trash, you name it. It's all ocean. Yeah, it's horrible, right? It's not unlike on the East Coast where they're warm or the South. Right. Yeah. So I'm in it, and that's, if you know about the triangle of sharks, they go down to San Diego, give birth. On the way up, they take a bite out of somebody in Santa Cruz, right, on a board usually because they think it's the food. Yep. And someone says, like, weren't you worried about a shark? I was like, excuse me. I was like, in that water, I wanted a shark to take me out. It was so cold and so miserable.
They do, was it Coronado Bay where they do the SEAL training?
Yep.
Yeah. Not too far from there.
Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
No, this is in the middle of the state.
Oh, okay.
Santa Cruz.
I have no geographic idea.
That's okay. California is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
enormous. So you did the how
the
long are the distances in the sprint versus Olympic?
sprints, it just depends, right? The swim could be up to 800 meters. The bike is usually, I don't know, it's been a while since I had to do those. So bike is usually, it's 10 miles or whatever. It depends. They're all different. They mess them up now.
Yeah.
And the runs usually 3.5 miles, right?
So it is. You can really go. You can hammer away at that. That's a really quick.
That's why they call it sprint. It's fast. Everybody's killing it. Well, Olympic distance is bigger than that. It's usually a
10K
mile. Yeah, it's usually about a mile swim. Then you do a 25-mile bike, and then you do a 6-mile run. For me, that's perfect. I can overtrain for each one of those and do really well at my weight. I mean, the leanest I was, and I was in good shape, was 235. My first triathlon, I was trying to find the picture. Someone took a picture of me on this bike. I've been lifting since, so I started lifting at 33 because I had a back injury. I got pretty big really fast, which I didn't realize until some young kids were like making fun of me at some pool somewhere going, look at all my muscles. And it wasn't that, it was just, I really enjoyed lifting. I didn't realize what I missed. I should have done it when I was a kid, but it didn't work out. So I get on this bike, and all you see is this picture of me. And all you see is these huge biceps grabbing the steering wheel, and this guy going. And then everyone after that was like, "Man, it must be hard to run with all that weight muscle." It's like, so I've lost some of that. I'm still a bigger guy, but I'm a Clydesdale. So I'm going to be over 200 pounds. Even when I get as lean as I possibly can, I'm going to be lucky to break 225.
Yeah, I take pleasure in being a Clydesdale, and I think I'll always be there. We'll see. I have thoughts of getting down to maybe 190s, but I actually move pretty quick, man. And so when I'm doing these, I do a lot of 5Ks. I do a lot of obstacle course races, and not to brag, but I'm usually winning or first, second, third. And it's great because the people that I'm running with are half my size and usually half my age. So I did this obstacle course race back in October. It's called Savage Race. It was a 10K. So it was 6 miles, a little over 6 miles. It was 30 obstacles. And out of the open wave runners, there was 1,000 of them. I came in 21st. And I'm like, I definitely had to be the fastest Clydesdale there. There was no one that I could think of that was moving as fast at me at my height and weight. So I take pride in being a Clydesdale.
Yeah. So that's how it started. I actually did Olympic distance in DC, which was the best Olympic distance I ever did. I mean, you put me on a bike or you put me in a wetsuit, get out of my way. I mean, I don't care how big I am. A wetsuit makes me float and I fly, and the bike, it's just my weight and everything, my power. I can really do a lot with it. So I did the Olympic distance there. I've done a lot of them. I was training for my half Ironman, got injured, and never came back to it because the industry got so busy again. I don't have the time to train because you have to train so much for that stuff. And eventually I mean, it's basically where it is. So I haven't really, go ahead.
What else are you into?
So besides that, the Olympic distance in DC, the course was so fast. We're all on triathlon bikes. You're not supposed to, there were 6,000 people in it. There was five waves in my age group, right? That's huge. That's a lot of people. I mean, you walk to a place, you see all these bikes. You got to remember where your bike is when you come running back in, right? After swimming. And I mean, I swam, it was in the Potomac. It was nasty. You could taste the jet skis going around you or whatever. Gasoline from that. And so I got on the bike and I went, and we were flying. I was going 30 miles an hour. That's how fast we're going, right? I'm behind these other 5 guys. You're not supposed to, be close to them because they don't want you to cheat. Well, there was no way you could get around it. There was all these people that started before me in the younger age groups that are in the way. So we're on the left. We did 25 miles in an hour.
Damn.
Yeah. And that was over everything. And so, that's pretty fast. And then I came in for the run. And so I did very well. Everybody was surprised how well I would do. Everybody's like, you're here already. All the people in my age group, you beat me. What the heck? You're big. Yeah. So so the weight is, and that's why they say, get a better bike. I'm like, no, I don't need a better bike. I need to lose weight, right? 2 grams off my bike or whatever is not going to do anything, but 20 pounds off of me is going to do a huge difference. Yeah, so that's real big. We're, we own a cabin, so we do a lot of, snowshoeing and other stuff like that. I used to be a hunter. I don't hunt much anymore just because of time, and we eat a little bit differently than we used to. So we got on the plant-based diet kick. I was a vegan for about 3 months and then said I can't do that. But we do a lot more plant-based. So I will eat. So for me, I like meat. I like to eat it. But I don't want everything about every meal I have.
Right.
So fish and meat. And then, I mean, my wife makes some stuff that is plant-based chili. You wouldn't even know it has no meat in it. It tastes just like regular meat.
You're making me hungry. I haven't eaten yet. I'm still fasting. It's 2 p.m. here in Atlanta almost. And so
I still haven't eaten, and it's almost 11. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
You've been doing the fasting and it's been helping you. Have you noticed any energy differences and just kind of like, healthier kind of things?
Well, the biggest thing for me was first get used to not eating till 10, right? I do 10 to 6. And the one thing also was to be able to work out down in that area before you ate, right? During the fasting, because but I can do it now. It's not a big deal. But there are some days you're like, wow, I feel a little lightheaded, right?
Your body temperature changes too. I notice I get a little bit colder easier when I'm at the end of my fast, when it's like, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I get a little bit colder easier just because you're not, burning, your body's not moving to burn food. It's just in this stasis. But anyway, what's the rest of 2021 look like for you? Got anything planned for the business personally you're looking forward to?
So we're going to Cancun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's like, oh, we went nowhere. And last year we were we went everywhere last year because nobody was going anywhere. So we were going everywhere. I mean, it was so inexpensive. We went to PV, Puerto Vallarta. I can never say it right. My wife always corrects me. Anyway, so we went down there and we stayed at this place, and at the pool, most of the days we were the only people there, because that's how it was. Nobody was traveling because everybody was afraid. Wear a mask, be good. Don't, no big deal. Move on.
I didn't travel as much, but I did travel.
Yeah. I mean, I even went to Steve Sims Speakeasy last year, when most people weren't. So, I mean, I have a different take on a lot of this. My wife works for, I won't say, so I won't get in trouble, but basically she's a nurse. She overseeing the vaccination clinics and all that stuff. And my big thing is there's so many people who don't want it. There's at least 30 to 35% who don't want it. Just open it up to everybody, right? Just get it done. Open it up to everybody who wants it. We'll get through it so much faster. But they were such a huge, that we didn't have enough vaccine. And I don't know what happened there, why that was that case, who didn't, order it or whatever. But yeah, I guess you don't want it.
Yeah, no, I don't believe it. I don't even I never got flu shots on purpose as an adult. I just believe the biggest thing I'm facing right now with this whole thing is personal sovereignty. And if they come out at some point with some sort of vaccine passport, or you can't go here because you're not, I'm going to have a problem with that. However,
no, you won't. I can figure it. I can get you a counterfeit one.
Okay. Thank you for that. But also there's a workaround for it too. So talk about traveling. And I'll leave you here with this because I got to head out here in a few minutes, but, in 10 days, I'll be in Peru, and I'm going with a band of brothers, so to speak, a bunch of veterans, military veterans that are going for different reasons. And we're going to sit with plant medicines, which is a little different than plant-based foods. But anyway, we talked about this before, but there's one plant medicine that you can do called Kambo. It's spelled like Rambo, but with a K, Kambo. And it's supposed to basically get rid of any disease that you have, any issue that you have, if you do it three times. And it's intense. It makes you purge pretty violently and does all this other stuff. But basically it's a workaround. And one of my buddies who's an ex-Green Beret who's going with me in 10 days, he was talking about, this is a way for us to kind of circumvent that issue. So if you can't get me the passport, I'll go to Peru and do Kambo and hopefully get it out of my system.
There you go.
Well, brother.
Yeah. I mean, it's, to each his own. The thing about the vaccine for flu, it was only 40% effective. So why would you take it?
No. Yeah.
I mean, I could see that, but this other stuff, I don't know. I mean, the older I get, maybe.
Are you taking it?
I'll take it. Yeah. So,
okay. Hey, to each his own.
I was medical. I have no problem. I understand different things. I don't have to worry about producing any more kids. So I'm okay. That's the thing is a lot of women who, my wife, they think about it. My wife, you got to do what's best for you, not just because they say you should take it.
100%.
You got to, you have no idea how this is going to affect you in the future when it comes to that. I'm not going to produce any more kids. I have 5. I don't need any more. I'm getting grandkids eventually. I have 1 right now.
You did the world with your progeny. No more.
Done, man. The ones that are out there are out there.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, listen, it's been amazing connecting with you. I'm excited to get this out to those that haven't heard the name quite yet, and anything I could do to share love with you, brother, I will. But thank you so much. He is the amazing, the mighty, the powerful Ed Parcaut. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.